Let's bring in the Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Geoff Duncan. Geoff is a Republican Party official who, like other top officials in Georgia, did stand up to former President Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election in that state. It was a pitched battle, and we're glad to have him back. Thanks for joining us, Geoff.
Glad to be here.
So let me just ask you, as these hearings have unfolded, what your reaction is. Do you think they've brought out new information? Do you think they've had an impact? And what are you looking out for tonight?
Yeah, I certainly think they've exceeded most Americans' expectations. I mean, a congressional hearing that's typically normally goes into partisan corners has really been focused on the facts and information, and the testimony that has come out has really been insightful. It's hard to listen to as a Republican, one that cares about the future of this country. It's been embarrassing at times, but I think it's been an important part of this healing process for not only our country, but as a Republican Party. I expect tonight to hear more about what didn't happen, what Donald Trump didn't do. Somehow, some way trying to explain that deafening silence between the events at the White House and the events at the Capitol, in my opinion, are unexplainable, but certainly we as Americans need to hear more about what the rationale was behind that, because it was a very difficult time, and it created a chaos that didn't need to happen.
Can I pick up on something you just said, that the hearings have contributed to a healing process? Is that what you're hearing? I know you're obviously in touch with voters in Georgia and maybe some other states too. I saw you were in New Hampshire at some point, so maybe there's something there. But do you really think that these hearings have served to provide some common ground on on what we feel and believe about that terrible day?
Yeah, I see them as a catalyst right now. I mean, unpacking these details are hard to listen to and cringeworthy. Poll after poll continue to show us that the direction of Republicans is away from Donald Trump. A Quinnipiac poll has taken in last fall, 78% wanted Donald Trump to run again. Now it's down to almost even. New York Times poll shows now a majority of Republicans don't want Donald Trump to run for the first time. So yes, we are seeing a change in trajectory, but you know, look, we've got disgruntled people all across America in both parties, right? 2/3 of Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run again. And it's just one of these moments in time where I think it's a catalyst for our country, not just the Republican Party. We need to heal as a country and start looking for leaders that want to talk more about solving problems than actually just talking about the problems. We all know the problems that exist: inflation, chaos, crime, global conflicts. What's the solutions?
I do think you're absolutely right. People are looking for something new. We've been locked in this same argument now for 6 years and more. You've been outspoken about the events that took place on January 6th and prior to that in your home state of Georgia, where you were a top official as that pressure came from the White House to change the election in Georgia. You said that those who don't condemn what happened on January 6th should be unable to seek election for office. Now, we know there are lots of people, there are people who were there on January 6th. Do you really think the Republicans are going to turn their backs on that day in the way that you're describing?
I certainly hope so. I think the weight of reality is always right. It just sometimes takes more time than you expect. And the reality is January 6th was a terrible day for America. And anybody who would speak to it with any sort of less deference than that, I think, is wrong and does not deserve the right to lead this country or lead a state or whatever they're seeking. But look, we've got some brighter days in front of us. We've got an opportunity to turn the page, and I think we're in that process right now. And look, I want new leaders to stand up that are bold, are good communicators, but really truly care about this country more than they do themselves. And that's really been one of the worst parts, I think, for those most ardent Trump supporters, is to watch. You know, we have a gravitational pull towards fighters in the Republican Party. And Donald Trump certainly earned the right to be called a fighter. But I think we're realizing he's fought for himself lately, not for this country. And that's a problem. And we're never going to be the true party or the true country that we want to be if we fight for ourselves and not for our country.
Yeah, that's interesting. It does feel like there is this gradual shift, as you described, as maybe a lot more Republican voters gradually are looking to other options. Let me go back to Georgia and those days in which the White House President Trump personally was, find me the votes, fella. The pressure on Georgia officials to change the verdict of the people of Georgia. A judge in New York has ordered Rudy Giuliani to appear next month before a special grand jury in Atlanta, where the local prosecutor's investigating whether Trump and others broke the law of Georgia in trying to interfere in the general election. What's in the election there? What's your reaction to all that?
The weight and pressure that we felt here in Georgia was immense. It's almost undescribable at times to know a sitting president is tweeting at you and making phone calls around you to try to get you to steer something in the wrong direction. I'm certainly glad that Governor Kemp, myself, Brad Raffensperger, and other state officials did the right thing when it mattered the most, didn't fall to some sort of political pressure, and made the wrong decision. And certainly, if we would have all paid the consequences for creating additional chaos. We did the right thing. I think one of the eye-opening experiences for me is how thin the line is between democracy and chaos. I kind of grew up thinking that democracy was just entrenched in who we were as Americans, and it is. But it certainly does come down to making good decisions.
And people of Georgia, in retrospect, how are they feeling about what went down and how it went down? Did the people of Georgia feel that their election was legitimate and that those officials who stood up to that pressure did the right thing?
Well, I'll point to the recent primary that we had here where Governor Kemp ran against David Perdue, and the only divisive issue between the two was David Perdue tried to tell people the election was rigged because Donald Trump told him so, and Brian Kemp didn't. He won by over 50 points. It was one of the most strongest beatdowns in an election I've ever seen, really. And it's because Georgians trust good leadership. They care about good leadership. They care about a governor that navigated them through a pandemic better than any other state, dealt with civil unrest, and quite honestly stood up to a bully.
And finally, I do want to ask you about what you were talking about, how Americans are hungry for new leadership in both parties. Polls show, as you noted, voters in their own parties would like someone else other than Biden and Trump to run for office in 2024. What's the answer there? First, in terms of candidates, as I say, you were in New Hampshire. Are you interested? And beyond that, that question of faith and democracy. Are they looking for candidates? Or are they saying the system's so broken, we got to find a new system altogether?
I think leadership matters, and that's what Americans need to make sure when they go to vote in the polls, that they vote for leaders that can truly navigate them into the future, right? I think tonight, after these January 6th hearings, almost every American is going to turn off the TV. They're going to have an opinion about what they heard, and then they're going to go back to being worried about how they're going to pay for gas in the morning on the way to work, how they're going to pay for groceries at the grocery store, how they're going to afford to retire on time with chaotic markets. That's where we need to make sure our leaders are focused on. And look, I wrote a book called GOP 2.0, and I talk about this acronym, the PET project: policy, empathy, and tone. Let's get back to winning elections because we have better ideas. Let's be more empathetic with those folks that don't agree with us. And let's use a tone that's respectable and sounds like our boardrooms and our ball fields, and not like this partisan back and forth that just continues to fan the flames on disparaging comments.
That's a great point. I do think in most areas of life, Americans are still pretty normal in the way they agree, disagree, do business with each other. Let's hope that gets back into the politics, and maybe you'll be part of that. Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Geoff Duncan, thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.